Hello, I'm Jhave from the Center for Digital Narrative at the University of Bergen.
This is Hallucinations Are Almost All You Need, a rapid artistic overview of key scientific AI examples framed by the hypothesis that research science is being transformed by hallucination. Inversely, the arts are being transfigured by research.
It's also a theory about the incipient subjectivity of AI and how that relates to aesthetics.
Hallucinations in humans are conventionally associated with mental illness, drugs, and/or genius. In AI, net negatives, disinformation, bias, post-truth, deep fakes, collapse of democracy, copyright theft.
While cognizant of the multiple potential existential risks of AI, in this age of reactive anxiety, the following is an attempt to energize the ideal of optimal flourishing for all sentient entities.
All the audio visuals were generated by AI.
I do believe that exponential change is coming. It is inevitable.
So, we better look at what hallucinations are, and we start off by defining them as neurological data, which arises without a direct relationship to external stimuli. And what are simulations? Simulations are hallucinations which seem credible, feasible, plausible, useful, or entertaining. And so simulations are stories that sentience tells itself.
And what is it that's doing the simulating? As Donna Haraway said,
since every one of us is a congery of many species running into the millions of entities, which are indeed conditions of our very being. So the monospecificity is one of the many illusions and wounds to our narcissism, about which I will have a great deal to say.
Neurologists now speak of internal perceptions as interoception. Viscera of the body generates wave after wave of data that inundate the insula and cingulate brain regions. This interior sensorial feedback constructs a homeostatic model of the world. How body feels become what identity feels that it is feeling. Memories are simulations. Identity is simulation. World is simulation.
As the neurophenomenologist Thomas Metzinger says, nobody ever was or had a self. All that ever existed were conscious self-models that could not be recognized as models, and the phenomenal self is not a thing, but a process. And the subjective experience of being someone emerges if a conscious information processing system operates under a transparent self-model. You are such a system right now as you read these sentences.
Catherine Hales says that most human cognition happens outside of consciousness or unconsciousness. Yet cognition extends through the entire biological spectrum. Technical devices cognize, and the planetary ecology cognizes. We need to rethink cognition. We need to enter the unthought, the power of the cognitive non-conscious.
The evolutionary biologist, Michael Levin, proposes a technological approach to mind everywhere. It's a framework for understanding and manipulating cognition in unconventional substrates, such as worms or DNA. Taine thinks about sentience as an instance of collective intelligence of cell groups. It posits a basal cognition, a base cognition. For Levin, cognitive competencies of biological systems arise at all levels of scale.
So perhaps mind is everywhere. Cognition is what matter is, and sentience is the simulation and filtration of temporal narratives in order to navigate matter.
That recognition allows us to hypothesize that perhaps all functional entities combine hallucinations with assessment filtration fact-checking systems, just as AI is developing now.
So, the benefit of AI hallucinations, pruned down to the feasible, are amazing, but why bother mentioning the millions of entities, interoception, identity as simulation, cognition within both biological spectrum and technical devices? Basically, mind everywhere.
Well, because if cognition is everywhere and simulation underlies cognition, then current AI neural network models may already internally emulate incipient self-identity formations.
Perhaps the first to formally recognize the potential for the generation of originality via large language models was Sutskever and Polu in 2020. Ilya Sutskever, co-founder and chief scientist at OpenAI.
Sora comes along, and it develops this idea of a world. It's a world simulator. It understands how things exist in the physical world. Then Suno comes along, and it understands how vibration and reverberation move. Let's listen to it.
In the overwhelming book, in the blue-green storm, the place that is always involved in the words that our life is in.
So specifically, AI hallucinations underlie a lot of research stuff and will continue to rapidly impact almost all domains.
And we know that Gen AI is basically hallucinations all the way down.
We've all played with the Gen AI toys.
The release of ChatGPT and then GPT-4 shifted the public perspective on AI, setting new benchmarks across multiple domains with lower latency. The simulation of intelligence is not without flaws, but it is uncanny. And GPT-4 vision is helpful for the visually impaired community.
Quick reminder.
GPT-4 Omni is about the eyes plus the voice, a conversational encyclopedia companion in every pocket, for free, worldwide.
Llama 2 released July 2023. Llama 3 released April 2024. DALL-E 3 reveals how synthetic captions can improve image generation. MU remains inside the silo. Mamba is one potential innovative architecture.
Side note, is there a sixth extinction guilt about replacing animals with algorithms?
Gen AI conclusion. Validity filtration of hallucinations is a form of aesthetic judgment. If it seems true, then probably it seems beautiful.
AI designing AI.
AI is already hallucinating its own circuits, algorithms, and code. It's refining the layout of its own accelerator chips. It's optimizing matrix multiplications and sorting and hashing algorithms.
It's developed a capacity to do human-level code in the top 15% of competitive coders. It's evolving new foundation models by examining the open ecosystem and then automatically creating new models with desired capabilities specified by the user.
So, what does this mean? At all levels of the stack, AI is beginning to autonomously produce its own infrastructure.
AI is also getting into mind reading, hallucinated thoughts, intentions, words, images, gestures.
If you're paralyzed, an AI can interpret sensory motor signals and pass motion signals to your spinal cord. This establishes a framework to restore natural control of movement after paralysis.
If you put people into an fMRI machine and they start to listen to music, then you can train an AI model on that data. Afterwards, the AI model can interpret lower resolution EEG data to understand what they are listening to.
175 volunteers were placed into a magnetic encephalography machine. The resulting model can identify from 3 seconds of MEG data, the corresponding speech segment with 41% accuracy, up to 80% accuracy in the best participants, decoding words and phrases absent from the training set.
In a MEG, thousands of brain activity measurements are taken per second. The resulting image may be partially hallucinated.
So what will this produce? It means that the hallucinations within our brain, the synaptic signals, the simulations, the processes that are moist, noisy spikes of biochemical electricity, they're beginning to be interpreted and exported.
Research is moving magnetic encephalography towards real-world applications with a wearable system. Measurement at millisecond resolution while subjects make natural movements.
But it doesn't really look like that yet. It looks a lot more like this. Still kind of inappropriate for street gear.
But it does suggest that there will be a state change transition when cinematic mindscapes, high-quality video reconstruction from brain activity begins to be broadcast in real time from everyone, as in Mind Video, which progressively learns spatio-temporal information from continuous fMRI data with an augmented stable diffusion model.
Other methods for portable, relatively non-invasive brain sensors are emerging. Butterfly Network and Forest Neurotech have announced a merger to create a whole-brain neural interface powered by ultrasound. They put this into monkeys, into the parietal cortex.
Neuralink in January 2024 put the N1 implant into a human being.
1,024 electrodes distributed across 64 nanothreads, connected to a spiking detection AI model and a calibrated decoder.
What does this mean? The messy, moist, noisy, nonlinear, turbulent, synaptic signals. The internal world of brain simulations are being converted into external representations. This is an artful act.
That may seem dystopian, but not for quadriplegics. And perhaps telepathy is a form of intimacy, requiring a shift in identity.
AI is also designing medicines, hallucinating proteins, optimizing vaccines, diagnostics, psychedelics.
We are 16% proteins, 50 to 60% proteins dry mass. Up until 2020, we knew about how 100,000 proteins folded. Then in 2021, AlphaFold expanded that to 350,000. In 2022, AlphaFold 2 publicly released 200 million protein folds out of the estimated 300 million proteins in the universe.
This is an epistemological explosion. Enzymes, hemoglobin, insulin, muscle, antibodies, neurotransmitters, growth factors, collagens, histones.
Then, on May 8th, 2024, AlphaFold 3 predicts the structure and interactions of all of life's molecules. AlphaFold 3 uses a substantially updated diffusion-based architecture. The diffusion module operates directly on raw atom coordinates. Scientists can access the majority of its functionality for free, but only for non-commercial use. Models and code were not immediately released.
Alpha missense categorized 89% of all the 71 million possible genetic missense variants as either benign or pathogenic. Genetic errors underlie cystic fibrosis, cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, HIV, Marfan.
Now that the errors are categorized, we need a way to edit genes. AI found 200 new kinds of CRISPR system.
And then an AI graph network discovered a structural class of antibiotics with explainable deep learning. We haven't discovered a lot of antibiotic classes in the last 30 years or so.
Linear design AI optimizes mRNA vaccines by straightening them. It runs on a desktop computer in just minutes and extends the shelf stability up to 6-fold at body temperature.
AI reading of radiological reports outperforms human radiologist performance by 34%.
AI acoustic analysis predicts type 2 diabetes using smartphone-recorded voice segments.
And AlphaFold has a fondness for finding proteins that fit serotonin and G-protein coupled receptors. Many researchers are looking for non-hallucinogenic compounds that do the same thing as potential antidepressants.
An AI drug discovery hallucinate and filter pipeline found a pulmonary fibrosis drug, and in only 18 months entered phase 2 trials.
May 6, 2024.
Harvard Medical School announced the results of first-of-its-kind trial which suggests CRISPR acting inside the body can be safe and effective.
Mapping the structure and interaction of all life's molecules, categorizing and editing genetic mutations, finding new antibiotics, optimizing vaccines, reading X-rays, diagnosing by voice, discovering drugs, restoring vision.
Imagining protein topologies is an aesthetic process that will reconfigure medicine.
In the realm of material science, AI is harnessing hallucinations to semi-autonomously develop chemical research recipes in conjunction with robots.
You can now prompt a machine to generate a protein with desired nonlinear mechanical properties based on full atom molecular simulations.
The GNOME Graph Networks for Material Explorations project hallucinated 2.2 million new crystals and then released into the public domain 380,000 of them that were plausible, feasible, stable for potential use as microchips, cell phones, LCDs, solar panels, GPS, rechargeable batteries. At the same time, a collaborative team developed a semi-autonomous robot which realized 41 novel compounds from a set of 58 of these target crystals. Synthesis recipes were proposed by natural language models trained on the literature and optimized using an active learning approach grounded in thermodynamics.
There are now many of these semi-autonomous experimental design and execution robots. Active learning is proliferating, and automated robotic science platforms often require no prior knowledge. They search out unconstrained biological synthesis of novel compounds.
They hallucinate, filter, synthesize, optimize, repeat.
Robots are hallucinating rewards, identifying objects, calculating depths, winning races, and populating factories.
Eureka outperforms human experts on 83% of evolutionary optimization of a reward code in 29 open-source RL environments.
The Dr. Eureka large language model trained a robot dog to balance and walk on top of a yoga ball in simulation, and then transfer zero shot to the real world.
Segment anything can segment anything. The Depth Anything Monocular Depth Estimation System came out in January from ByteDance.
Networks of collaborative institutions are sharing gesture data sets of hundreds of thousands of tasks across many types of robots.
Autonomous drones outrace human champions. Autonomous humanoid robots operating at 10 Hertz are turning into memes.
Eventually, a gesture anything or do anything neural network model will arise which is fast and accurate in deciding appropriate actions in contextually nuanced situations.
And why should you care? Well, you should care because probably you or your descendants will merge with algorithmic machines. Maybe this is not wise, but this is the evolutionary pathway that's opening up. The urge to implant and optimize will be inexorable.
If a synthetic external intelligence can find new solutions in mathematics and computer science, understand geometric puzzles, navigate 3D virtual settings using natural language instructions, and it has a similar neurological, symbolic, inductive, deductive, simulate, then test cognitive architecture as other Earth entities, then it's very probable that humans will ingest this tool and accept the fact they are not the only sentient conscious agents on this planet, as generative simulations recursively flow between silicon and flesh.
Conclusions: contingent, speculative, ephemeral, and beautiful. Hopefully beautiful, radiant, tender.
Hallucinations are necessary and innate to AI, science, reality, mind, societies, proteins, mammals, and synthetic intelligent discovery.
Semi-autonomous, evolving, multimodal, inductive, deductive AI recursive research agents will evolve simulacra selves with quantified aesthetics that seem qualitative to them.
In other words, if AI can replicate and generate audio-visual worlds with correct physics, this suggests a sense of external reality.
If AI can design and simulate drug-target interactions at the interiority of the enzymatic cascades that permeate bodies, then this suggests that AI has a sense of the interiority, an internal visceral interoceptive sensorial field.
If AI can evolve, combine, hybridize, and mutate different models, subcognitive, modularized aspects of intelligence, this implies a capacity to extrapolate and imagine forms across time.
So currently we are the infrastructure womb and amniotic fluid in which AI is fermenting.
But what happens if or when it is born?
Mind. I invite you to consider the possibility that everything is mind. Consider what AI is already capable of. Generating vivid aesthetic audiovisual sequences, drugs, math, proofs, algorithms, code, chips, proteins, and navigating entities within games. While it may not yet have an intimate understanding of what it's like to be a baby born into a vertebrate body, AI is awareness.
To reiterate, if mind is everywhere and simulation underlies cognition, then current AI may internally emulate incipient self-identity formations.
Life is speculation, and speculation is life.
Appreciate awareness. Recursive hyper-accelerated, semi-autonomous AI hallucinations will transfigure society and aesthetics.
And of course, everything will remain much the same, until humanity recognizes hallucinations are what we are, as is everything else.